Hi, welcome back. I'm Mary Jones with CheesePress Publishing, and today we're going to look at the second part of passion projects. So if you watched the last video, we talked about what a passion project is, what one isn't, and why you might complete one. So today let's look at the actual planning and the actual completion of the passion projects. So, how do you go about designing a passion project? And then once you've designed it, how do you go about making it happen? Let's assume, because we discussed last time, that a passion project can be a method of self-discovery. So let's assume that your student or you are going through this process of self-discovery for a minute. So let's start with brainstorming. You don't already have something that you know that you're extravagantly enthusiastic about. The first question that I'd like you to ask yourself is, what brings you happiness or joy? What are things that, when you do them unfailingly, you are pleased with what you're doing in that moment and when you're done? Maybe you have a lot of things there, maybe you don't. Another thing that you could look at, and everything else that we're going to talk about, I want you to think about your last year, 3 years, 5 years, depending on your age. You might have a larger area that you can kind of survey for these questions. But look at a considerable time period and ask yourself, what is it that you've spent your free time on? When you have no obligations, when you're relaxing, what are you doing? In that same vein, what are you spending your money on? If you have anything left over after you've paid your bills, after you've put food on the table, what is that extra money going toward? These are things often that can indicate what it is that you're passionate about. Similarly, if you're daydreaming, what are common themes and patterns that you're constantly coming up with? What are things that you find yourself continuously desiring, wishing, dreaming about? If somebody were to start a conversation with you, what topics are out there that you could just talk forever about? Those are things that you're probably really passionate about. If you want to come at this from a little bit different way, what are some challenges in your life, either things that you've personally experienced or things that you've seen in your friends or your community, that either you have some ideas on how maybe to address that, or you'd like to find a solution to those problems? That could be a good source for a passion project. And then once you've kind of written those things down, just make some notes of any kind of extra thoughts that might have come to mind as you were doing this self-reflection. Another way that you can approach it is to come up with questions. Maybe you do this independently, maybe you do this in the wake of what we just walked through, but sit down with a blank piece of paper and write down as many questions as you can think of, and then try to find the answers to some of those questions. This is how you're going to tap into what your personal passion is. If you're helping a student or a child complete this process, you can help direct them if you've noticed things that their eyes light up with. You're in the middle of doing something, going somewhere, talking about something, and all of a sudden you just see a light. That might help indicate a passion. Just because you've identified a passion, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be a good fit for a passion project. But this at least will get you started. So, once you find a topic, a subject, a direction that fits with things that you're extravagantly enthusiastic about, and actually create a tangible product, something that you can do, you want to enter the goal setting portion of your projects. So we use a methodology called SMART goals. It's been around out there for a while. It's been published in some papers. And so it's a fairly common goal setting technique. SMART is an acronym. The acronym stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and the timing of your project. So for the S, specific, the question you want to answer here is, what do I want to accomplish? For your M, measurable, how do I know when this project is done? That's very important. If you don't set a goal that says, this is the end goal, then you're never going to complete the project. It's possible that what you're working on may become much larger than your initial project phase. So you may have to say, I could see this going somewhere 10 years from now, and that might be a career path. But for your passion project, you want to create something that has a measurable end goal in whatever your fairly short range of time is. You probably don't want to have a time frame that goes longer than a year to 18 months, especially if you're doing this as part of a high school project. Achievable. How do I make this happen? What are the things that I need to make this happen? Is this something that I have the ability to make happen? So you want to make sure that your goal is achievable. Your R is for relevant. You need to know who this project is going to affect. Who are the people being served by this project? Who are the people who would be interested in this project? So who does it matter to? And then your timing, which we already discussed, you want it to be time bound. And for a high school level passion project, you really want that time frame to be about a year to 18 months. Could be a little bit longer if it's somebody who's early in their high school career. I do want to take this moment to point out, while we might be talking about high school students, because when you're starting to apply for colleges, people might feel that they want something like this as part of the things that they've done. But a passion project's not limited by age. A passion project can be completed by a much younger child if they have a passion for something. So don't let an age or a number deter you from pursuing things that you are truly extravagantly enthusiastic about. So once you have these goals in place, you want to outline your project. Give your project a name. That's going to help you ground what you're doing. It doesn't have to be the finished name of your project, whether you're publishing a book or releasing an album or starting some kind of movement. The name that you give it right now doesn't have to be the finished name, but give it some kind of name so you can ground it. Then you're going to identify and describe the people who are served by or who would be interested in this project. This is your target market. So you want to talk about who your target audience is and what are some identifying characteristics of this group of people. You want to write down your goals and your objectives. Identify the key message that you're going to be sending through this project. This is something that adults might recognize as being your elevator speech. If somebody asks you what you're doing, can you explain it in a minute? Maybe 2 at most. Tell them what you're doing and why. Next, you need to identify any obstacles that you might face. If you've kind of started planning things out and you've identified the things that we've talked about up to this point, it's probably going to be pretty apparent what some of the obstacles might be in the way of getting this completed. Maybe that's a lack of resources. Maybe it's you don't know the right people to do the things. You want to write those down so that you can find solutions to them. Because your next step is going to be to brainstorm how you want to address these obstacles. Once you have those, make a list of resources that you have for the project. You might not realize how many people you know or how many people are around you from other walks of life that might be able to help you with your passion project. There are people in your community that might have keys to help implement this and see it through to completion. Because at this point, your project is still down on paper. Next, you're going to need to make a list of resources that you don't have. Things that you know you're going to need to complete this project, but off the top of your head, you can't think of a person that could help you with that. There are resources available out there that can help connect you to people outside of your personal network. Our educational partner, Hazelwood Prep, has a program that helps guide students through passion projects, and it opens up a network of people that students have access to that can help them complete various aspects of a variety of passion projects. So once you have that part down on paper, this is kind of your biggest planning part of your project. Now you want to get into the specifics and the details, because this is going to be the step that will help you get your passion project all the way through to completion. So you need to break down every aspect of your project into milestones. Those milestones need to have a date associated with them so that you can stay on track to finish by your deadline. Once you have your milestones, break those milestones down even further into individual steps that you need to complete to reach that milestone. This is a really important step for this process because this is how you can hold yourself accountable, or how you can hold your child accountable for making sure that they're completing what they need to actually make the passion project a reality. So get as detailed as you can on every one of these steps. And then you go through, and once you've set your deadlines and you've got your milestones, you have your steps, now you start completing the actual passion project. You want to go follow each one of those steps so you can check off every milestone. Every step of the way, record your progress. Make sure you're keeping good notes about what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how long each step is taking you. That way you can go back and you can revise that planning step. So it may be that you've missed a deadline. It may be that you came upon an obstacle that you hadn't thought of. It may be that you needed a resource that you didn't have. So go in and constantly adjust your timelines and your steps as you learn more about your passion project and what it is that you're doing. By keeping that as a living document, as you are going through, it's going to make you more likely to be successful in the long run. So if you're regularly recording your progress and you're updating your plan as necessary, then you'll be motivated to continue going. Now, this is a note for parents. If you're doing this alongside of a student, be on the lookout for obstacles that can derail your student and demotivate them. Often, especially the younger a child is completing a passion project, it can be very easy for them to get discouraged if they come up on an obstacle or something that wasn't foreseen. It's kind of easy to roll with problems that crop up when you know that they're coming, but if something comes out of the blue, that can be highly demotivating. And so you might need to step in and help them solve problems, even if you really want this to be their project and something that they're completing on their own. Make sure that you're aware of these little road bumps so that the project itself doesn't get derailed permanently. So with that, we've talked about the steps that you can take to brainstorm your passion project if you don't already have something that you're extravagantly enthusiastic about. We've talked about the planning steps of getting started on your passion project and what steps you need to take to make sure that you see it all the way through to completion. We're here to help, and we'd love to see your questions in the comments section, and that could spark videos in the future. So if you liked this video, please like, subscribe, and share. And until next time.